We're back and now on to episode 15, and this week we're covering the brutal death of Nikki Redden from 2016 and the challenges that her family faced after her death. This case doesn't have a whole lot of public information, but it was one I felt like sharing. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe to my channel to stay updated with the latest episodes. And with that, here we go. So this case takes us to Baldwin, Florida. It's a town in Duval County, which sits 20 miles west of Jacksonville. And this is where Nikki Redden lived with her 2 children. By family's accounts, Nikki was a wonderful mother. She adored her daughters, and she spent most of her time with them. But on April 29th, 2016, Nikki disappeared, and her family would then take her children in their care. They went out physically looking for her. They were calling friends and family, anyone that they could think of, but nobody found a single sign of Nikki. Just 2 days later, on May 1st, the questions surrounding the incident would soon fade as an officer received a call to patrol a location near a concrete company. This area is more rural, featuring a lengthy road that ultimately leads to a cul-de-sac. It was at the very end of this cul-de-sac at 1005 Baldwin Traplex Drive that the body of 25-year-old Nikki was discovered. And now, initially, the police only indicated that foul play was suspected. For some time, they refrained from providing any additional information. However, at some point, it came to light that upon her discovery, authorities promptly classified the case as a homicide, given that Nikki sustained multiple stab wounds and various cuts and slashes across several parts of her body. And I believe that this information was passed from Nikki's sister to First Coast News during her interview about Nikki's case. Her family was obviously very heartbroken, but they were also super frustrated because they knew who the killer was. They suspected a close family friend was responsible for Nikki's death. But police didn't have any evidence to charge this person. This person was questioned, but denied having anything to do with Nikki's death. Until 2018, when police would finally get a break. Now, they never said if this was DNA evidence that was found, or if he told someone that he killed her and the word spread. We don't know. But on April 22nd, 2018, almost 2 years to the day of her death, her killer was finally captured. 59-year-old Dennis Benjamin Mixon was arrested and charged with first-degree murder and arson. He was also charged with failing to comply with career offender requirements. He was then transferred from a Florida Department of Corrections facility in Lake Butler, and we'll get into that in a second, to the Duval County Jail, where he would remain until sentencing. But he continued to still deny that he did anything to Nikki. Now, you may wonder why Nikki's family was skeptical about Dennis in connection with her murder. The reason likely lies in his lengthy criminal background. Dennis had been in and out of prison 11 different times in 40 years. And at the time of his arrest for Nikki's death, Dennis was already serving a 7-year sentence for car theft and other offenses, which naturally raised red flags. Consequently, he became a prime suspect. However, it wasn't that police dismissed the family's concerns. They simply lacked the necessary evidence for several years. And the most aggravating part about all of this was that even after all that time spent in prison, they couldn't keep a better track of him, and he killed Nikki less than a month after he was let out after serving time for aggravated battery. Dennis pled not guilty to Nikki's death in late April of 2018, but the state had all they needed, and they were pushing for the death penalty in this case, for good reason. Prosecutors argued that this case held many aggravated factors. They found out that Dennis had made previous threats to Nikki, and that violence was also a factor at one time. His charges are listed under a capital felony, which is described as crimes that are heinous, atrocious, or cruel, and that this murder was premeditated in a cold, calculated manner. So in May of 2018, 2 years after Nikki's life was taken, Dennis was convicted and sentenced to death for the murder of Nikki Redden. Dennis now serves his time in a Duval County prison where he awaits his much-needed death sentence. And that is it for episode 15. Please leave me case recommendations if you have any. As always, your subs and love are greatly appreciated. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you at the next one.